Hi everybody, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Marilyn and Steve. Today we are going to be using up some bananas that we have that have truly gone well past being ripe. Now we love banana bread, so these won't go to waste. I'm going to make these into banana breads and I'll share the recipe that we use for banana bread with you. But I'm also going to share with you something else you can do with the peels other than just throw them into the garbage or into the compost. So let's get going on getting the bread made. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have the rest of my ingredients all out. I'm going to take the bananas and I'm just going to peel them, put the peels aside, and get the bananas mashed up for the bread. So let's get these peels off. Now anybody who has tried to peel an ultra ripe banana knows how much fun that is. But what I did with these bananas first was I actually washed the peels, and I'll get into why I did that later. But for now, we're just going to take the bananas, we're going to get them onto the plate, and then we're going to get them all mashed up. One nice thing is sometimes you can find bananas that are starting to turn brown marked down for clearance at the store, and the browner they get, the sweeter the banana actually gets. So we prefer using the sweeter banana for our bread. It really adds to the flavor, and if you can get any kind of fruits at a discount, you know how great that option is. So here we have these all mashed up. What I'm going to do is just separate this into two about equal parts. And I'll be using half for one banana bread and half for the other. So the recipe we're using today is one that has been passed down to me from my mom. I'm not sure if she got it from her mother or when she actually got the recipe, but this is something that has been in the family. I make it, my sister makes it, my brother makes it, my kids even are now making this banana bread. So it's a recipe I know that's going to carry on in the family as well. And this is a recipe that came out either in, I think, the 40s or the 50s. So we're just going to follow this recipe and let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to use is a 1/4 cup of vegetable shortening. Now I use vegetable shortening. I've never made this with butter, so I don't know what you can do with that as a substitute. We've always used a vegetable shortening like a Crisco, or even the store brand is just fine. But we use a 1/4 cup. And then to that, I'm going to add a cup of sugar. Now, all I'm going to do with that is we're going to take and I'm going to use this to blend the sugar and the shortening together. So while I'm mixing this together, now this can be mixed using just a spoon with the sugar. You can use it with a fork, whatever works easiest for you. Let me move these pans that are clanking over here. There we go. I usually keep my knife, and then if it gets caught up, I just scrape it off and then blend it again. So we're going to just quickly blend this together. What we're trying to do is blend the sugar and the shortening so that we have a nice mix, and it's going to make it easier to blend the rest of the ingredients in together with it. Now, I will say that I have a particular order that I do this in, and the first time my son did the recipe, he wanted to know why it didn't come out like mine. And he just took all the ingredients, put them in a bowl all together, and then mixed them up. Now, everybody has their way that they like to do their baking. This just happens to be mine. And as you can see, if I bring this up and you look, that's blending together nicely. So I'm going to blend it just a little bit more. Okay. Scrape off any remains on our blender here. There we go. Just get that out of the way. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to add in 2 eggs. So just crack and in. So we have our 2 eggs, and I'm putting the eggshells aside. If you haven't seen what we do with our eggshells, I'll leave a link to the video on how we use those for a calcium addition for our garden. Now I'm just gonna blend in the eggs. Get those all mixed in. So we are in the middle of our no shopping challenge. And if I didn't happen to have eggs in the fridge, I could have used an egg substitute. I could have used freeze-dried eggs for this. I could have used frozen eggs for this. So you have a lot of options. Whatever it is that you happen to have on hand that you have to be able to use for your eggs, you can use. So now that we've got that blended pretty well together, we're going to take those bananas that we mashed, and I'm going to take half of these bananas and put them into the bowl. Oh, it smells so good. If we had smell-o-vision, you'd be able to smell how just awesomely sweet these bananas are. I'm going to put the other half away for the next bread. And we're just going to stir that mashed banana in. And then we're ready to add our dry ingredients. Now we're going to mix our flour, our baking soda, and our salt. And it's very simple. Those are the only other 3 ingredients we're going to be using. So I've got 2 cups of flour already in my sifter, and I prefer to sift my flour before I put it into my mix. To me, the bread comes out a lot better. And what I have a habit of doing is I put my flour in my sifter, I measure it in, and then we are going to use a half a teaspoon of salt. So what I'm going to do is put that right into the top of the sifter, and then I am going to put in a teaspoon of baking soda. So there's half a teaspoon and a teaspoon. What I'm going to do is give that a little stir. And then I'm going to sift that into my measuring cup. And I have found that that blends those into the flour a lot better, so I don't end up with a clump of salt or a clump of the baking soda. And as I sift this out, it's a quick, easy process. A little messy sometimes. But we're gonna sift that through, and if I do end up with any clumps in the bottom, which I have a few here, I can take my measuring spoon, just break those up in the bottom, and finish sifting them in. You always want to make sure you get everything out of your sifter, so that whatever you're making next, you're not adding ingredients you may not want. And we've got a couple more little clumps down there. It looks like baking soda. So if you've ever had your baking soda clump up and then you're eating a bread or a cake and you get that very salty bite, that may be what that is. So we've got that all in there. And because it was empty firsthand, I'm just gonna tap it to make sure everything's out, put that aside. And then we're gonna take our flour and just mix it in slowly with our wet ingredients. So let me get this mixed in and I'll be right back. So I've got my banana bread mix in my pan. If I was going to be baking these in my regular oven, I would have preheated my oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'd be putting these into the oven for about 45 minutes. Now in my oven, I usually spin them at about half that time. Sometimes they can take up to an hour in the oven, but I always tell people 45 minutes and then just keep an eye on them if they're not done. When they're almost ready, what you're gonna do is you can take a toothpick, put them in to test. If the toothpick comes out dry, they're done. If it comes out with sticky batter still on it, leave them in for a little bit longer and check them every 5 minutes or so after that 45 minutes is over. I'm gonna go ahead and go get my other banana bread mixed together, and then I'll be right back. Now that I have both my banana bread mixes ready, I'm gonna put them in my wood cook stove oven, and we're gonna put them in, and because it's in the wood cook stove, I'm going to, about every 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to alternate and rotate these until I hit my 45 minutes. We're gonna keep a close eye on them, and I'll be back as soon as these are done. So it's been almost 45 minutes, and you can see the bread is starting to brown up. What I'm gonna do is open the oven so we can take a good look at these. So, trying to balance the camera. Let me get this pulled out a little bit. Pull one of the breads forward. Okay, so you can, whoops, sorry about that. You can see the top of the bread. See if I can hold this and check it at the same time. It's starting to split. I'm gonna put the toothpick in. I bring it out. Let me try to bring the toothpick up in front and get it to focus in. The toothpick, as you can see, still has some goo on it. So let me get rid of this, and then I'm gonna show you what we do in our oven, and you could do the same in a regular oven if you need to cook them a little longer, but you don't want the tops to get extra brown. So as you can see, the tops of these are beautifully brown, and I really don't want them to get too dark. So what I did was I just took some aluminum foil, folded it so that it'll come over the top, and I'm just gonna set this on top of the bread. And now I'm not pressing down, I'm just covering the top of the bread with these. I'm gonna do the same on the other one. Just cover the top. This is very difficult to do one-handed. Let me get these covered, and then we're gonna get them right back in the oven to cook some more. So I had promised you I would get back to the banana peels. So what I'm gonna do with these is I am going to make a little treatment for my plants that may be running a little low on potassium. So I'm gonna take these banana peels, and here I have just a little pot on the stove. It's got about 3 cups of water in it. And I'm going to add the banana peels to the pot. And we're going to make sure that they're pressed down in. And there we go. And then I'm going to grab a cover for that. Let's see. I'm going to put a cover on that. We're going to bring it to a boil. We're going to let it boil for probably about 5 minutes, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So it's been a little over an hour with our wood cook oven, and these are the 2 breads. And as you can tell, they look a little bit different. They're raised slightly different, but that's normal. It's also normal for them to crack on the top. Sometimes they don't crack all that much, and sometimes they crack like a little Mount Vesuvius volcano. So just to show you, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna put this in and pull it out, and if you can see, it's got a little bread stuck to it, but nothing battery and sticky, so we know that they're done. Now I'm going to let these cool for about 10 minutes before I take them out of the pan, and then I will cut one so you can see how they look inside. But we're going to let them sit here and rest, like I said, about 10 minutes. Now the recipe for this will be down in the description, and it'll also have a link to the recipe on our webpage, so you can check it out in either place. And let's let these sit and rest for a bit, and I will go take a check on our banana peels and see how they're doing. So our banana peels are now boiling, and we're going to set a timer and let those boil for 5 minutes. We have our water now cooled that has the banana peels in it. So the next step is just to take out the peels. So we're gonna take the peels out, and we're gonna put these into our compost. You can see the water dripping off, so we're just gonna let these drip for a second. And I'm going to put them in a bowl so they can go into our compost. And I'll give you a close-up shot of this so you can see what it looks like. But now this water, now that it's cooled, is what we are going to use for our plants. So I'm specifically using this on my turmeric plants, which seem to have a little bit of an issue while they're indoors during the winter with a little bit of a lack of potassium. So for us, this is just something that we're going to add to the water that we do for our regular plant watering, and it's just going to give that little boost to those plants when they need it. So for storing this, all I'm going to do is take it out of the pot, pour it into a jar, and then I'm just going to keep this jar in the fridge. So we've got a pint, and there's a little bit left in the bottom of the pan. So what I'm going to do is take the little bit that's left in the bottom of the pan, mix that with some water that we're going to be giving to the plants later today, and that'll take care of what is left. Now, as far as how much do you mix with what, we probably do maybe a 1/4 cup of the banana broth to about 2 cups of water. Just enough to give it that boost, but not enough to cause any issues, not that I think it would. Now, some people will take the peels and just cut those up and put them on top of the plant and water through the peels. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this and ways you can use it. This is what we do, and it's just another way to get a little bit more out of your fruit instead of just throwing the peels away or directly right into your compost. So I hope that is a tip that helps. And now we'll get back to checking on our banana bread. Now that I've let my banana bread cool, we're going to cut off a couple slices, and I'm going to get Steve to come and help me taste test this. The reason that I wait to let it cool, now you can cut this when it's still warm, and it is absolutely delicious, is it just cuts a little bit easier. And otherwise I might be tempted to just keep cutting the pieces and keep eating the whole thing. So gotta give it a little chance to cool. And we're gonna cut a couple slices, and then I'll get Steve to come help me taste test. So now for the true test of how good the banana bread came out. Very moist. I don't want to talk with my mouth full. This is where a glass of milk or a cup of tea would be awesome. Very moist, very sweet. It's a very good banana bread.
Yeah, so, she's been making this banana bread ever since I've known her. And it's like one of those family things. With everybody in the recipe knows the Hawaiian banana bread. And we always wondered why it was called Hawaiian banana bread. And it's just one of those things that I never really had. My mom always made different flavored breads, fruit breads and things, but not like this. This is one of the things that when she makes this, it's like I know what I'm having for breakfast.
Yeah, so it is a family favorite of ours. And this recipe, like I said, has been passed down in my family. And my mom made it. I make it. My kids are now grown. They make it. And we don't mind sharing our recipes. The more people who get to enjoy yummy food, the better. But as you saw at the beginning of this video, even if your bananas look like they may be past it, the banana itself is still awesome, and there's still something that you can do with the peel if you're looking to get that extra potassium for your plants. So if you have any great recipes that you use your bananas for, or any tricks for how to make bananas last longer, store longer, please put that down in the comments, share that with us and with others who are watching the video. And until next time, everybody, take care.
See ya.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our videos and want to help us out, please like this video and subscribe. If you know someone who would like our videos, make sure to share, as this really helps our channel out. Again, thanks, and see you soon.